Alright, so I guess what we're doing now is we're going to have a little chat about where I'm going with the direction of the story, because I'm doing existentialism, but I'm also creating fiction at the same time. I want to tell a long tale that will span over the pentaverse, which a pentagram is about six worlds, right? So there are six worlds. There is an entire world. It's not just Darkspire. You've got the Darklands. You've got all these different places. Hask. The matriarchy are alive, but they're the credit syndicate now. They retreated from Darkspire, which is run by the Dragosian Empire many years ago. During the I think it was after the collapse, but it was during the schism. So after they retreated and the Council of Eight took over, it became the Empire. But there are two versions of that. Some people are saying that the Dragosian Empire, they say that the matriarchy, which is, they say they're awful, right? Because it was a difference of opinion over religion. So that war was caused by the difference. Basically, in the Darklands version, the Dragosian Empire version, Asarin was a saint, and Sinvela was the god, the one that had the sin of creating the world that way. Obviously, we are showing the matriarchy version of that religion, where Asarin is a god and Sinvela is also a god, but she's bound to the Tree of Life. That's the version we're showing, which is the matriarchy's version currently. So we're putting that in the prologue for the myth, and the world's ended many times, but Asarin always uploads the data into the Dreamscape, and thus he kind of resets it, and it all starts again. And he keeps trying to save the world, and he keeps trying to save the Pentaverse, and he keeps trying to save Sinvela, but the only thing he's ever managed to do is save the data, right? And he always fails. But there's always another try, another attempt, another six worlds breathed into existence endlessly because of Asarin's machines. But the thing is, he's losing data when he does it, so there are some memories he never manages to retain. There are gods that are rewritten continuously, but he always manages to save Sinvela's data, always manages that one, and he always manages to save some of his own partial data, but the other gods are rewritten every time. And the mortal gods, there are many more of those, because the ones that exist in the boundary are kind of, they're in the mortal realms in terms of religions, right? But they're not the only gods in the mortal realms. There are others, right? But in the boundary, those are the only ones. But the unbound, which are people that exist outside the boundary, other gods, but they're more metaphysical. They don't have physical forms. They don't have voices. They don't have. They're basically energy, but they're outer gods, right? So we're working on that. So it's a cycle, an endless cycle of death and rebirth, which for existentialism is great. It's almost profound. How you carve meaning into the void, even if you're forgotten, even if memories are rewritten, erased, what you did matters. The tragedy of life, as it were. I'm also adding many other things. So we've got the Hitman right now, and there are going to be some twists and turns there as to this first job, which is contract one, is called A Soldier's Debt. We're not killing the soldier off for ages. Currently we're working on a side job, which is he's got a job as a bouncer right now. Obviously he's uncontracted, so he has to change his DNA stain, but when he switches it, obviously he's staining his DNA. He's an unlicensed contractor, so that DNA, he's not written as a hitman, because that's not something that would be available to civilians. He was an officer, right? But he changed his DNA stain once for a different job, and the process for that is quite complex, and it's well written. I can show you that as well, or you can read it in the novels. So we've got the first issue done. We're on chapter 3 for issue 2. I tend to do 12 or so chapters per issue, but we have 100 and I think 101 pages now, maybe 100 pages. So it's going to be a big book. Each volume should go on from between 6 and 12 issues for a volume, right? So it's going to take ages, but I've got the basics of the story kind of form. You've got physic, which is your fighter class. Basically, you've got your soldiers. Anything physical is a physic. Even a warehouse worker would technically be a physic. You've got mentic, psitic, and travic. Travic is your travel social skills, right? The communicative ones, the ones with charisma. Your traders, things like that as well. Taxi drivers, things like that. Psitic is like science, right? It's also healing, but more science and engineering. Like it should be indetic or indrestic or something, but I've called it psitic. And then you've got the medtic as well, which are basically, they're the pure healers, right? But they're not just doctors. Some of them are priests or spiritual types, right? So that's what that is. It's spirituality in medicine, the medtic. But then you've also got the ether abilities, and depending on your star sign in that world, there are 12 different star signs. There are different blood types, and there are different birth years that will affect what kind of ether magic you're born with. There is magic in this, yes, but it's different. The variations between year, blood, and star sign affect your elements and things like that, what things you can use, right? And not everyone is born with magic. It's if it was a game, it would be random roll. You wouldn't necessarily have it. You might not have magic, but some people would, and depending on their birth year, blood sign, and star sign, it would always be different, because you're fusing things. So your first two, your star sign and your blood, but your birth year is a mixture of those two, which means it's always different. And there's a ton of different elements, tons. I think what was it, like the bull is one of the star signs I had. I have a bunch of star signs that are not real world star signs. So we're doing the bouncer gig. That's at Lux, but before we go to that, we're having to go through underground channels to go through a DNA stainer, which Elise gave him information that Silphor want, which is the person that runs the Rat Coven, who these people, they don't have a particular faith, they don't have a particular favor with any of the sides, they're just kind of there for the money. They have no true belief, but as I said, it's a coven, so they have witches and they're criminals, but they also have fighters and things like that, mostly smugglers and networks and traders. The black market, it's one of many black markets, but it's the one that is officially licensed by the council, or not really officially, unofficially, but allowed to run. Because they obviously sided with the council over the matriarchy. So in Darkspire, they can operate quite freely. What else was I going to say? But yeah, you've got tons of gangs, raiders, things like that. There's even a clone lord, which I kind of had this idea that I wanted to have a guy who produced humans, and he could literally put cameras in their eyes and things like that. So I was going to go a bit crazy, but I might not do that. I mean, I'll do something like that, but something different. There's obviously Industria, which is the mercenaries, and they're kind of the more they're a lot more free than Darkspire. They've got a lot more land, but how do I put it? Their presence isn't really over in the area we're in. But they've got a few towns, like shanty towns, in this current continent, the same way the commune does. And then you've also got other areas like the Dalgian, the Carnicuans, which are a rarity in the Darklands. I mean, the Darklands is called the Darklands because Darkspire's there, right? It's the Empire's lands. And that's where we are at the moment. We're in the Scintillate district, which is one of, I believe, 6 districts. I'm going to have to go back over my work. It was 6 or 8, but you've got more at the bottom, kind of a normal amount in the middle, right? And they progressively get smaller and smaller, these districts and these cities, until you reach the top floor where there's only two districts, and that's where the elite live.